so much. Wow. So, this is an incredible time to be doing this work. Stratton harkened back to the early days when we took up the issue of safe schools, not because we strategized that was going to be what we did, but because we began getting phone calls from parents and from students who were dealing, with some pretty terrible circumstances. And we know that things have gotten better, slowly but surely, but we also know that there's so much more work to be done. And some of you may have seen in the newspaper recently about a student who got into some trouble for intervening when one of his classmates was being gay bashed. And it was a reminder of the thing that we learned through the work around safe schools, that the problem is not bullies, it's bystanders. It's the people who are silent in the face of other people being targeted. And so when we read that story, we reached out to attorneys just to make sure the student who stopped a classmate from getting beaten up had some representation. We were really happy to learn very quickly that having first suspended him, the school brought him back and allowed him to come back to class. And so we reached out and invited him to be here tonight. And I just want to ask everyone to give a hand to someone who refused to be a silent bystander in the face of a gay bashing, Mark Betterson. And Mark, and it really is one of those moments where, it's a reminder of the difference that you make in a moment like that. Right now, I think the biggest call that we are making to people all across Florida is don't be a bystander. This is a moment where so much is changing. And in fact, who was it? Our board member Rodney White was saying today that a friend of his sent him a message when the news came down that not only did Texas strike down their constitutional ban, but Kentucky also is now required to recognize marriages from outside the state. And so he said a friend of his posted, will somebody look out the window and let me know if pigs are flying? But it kind of speaks to the moment we're in, where anything is possible and everything is possible. Here in Florida, just yesterday there was polling that came out that showed that 57% of Floridians now support marriage equality. We lead the South, pretty dramatically lead the South in terms of support for marriage equality. And I think we're only like 2 points behind California. I mean, this is a dramatic shift from 2008, when less than 40% supported marriage equality. And the reason that has happened is because people have told their stories. In some ways, even though it was a painful loss in 2008, it sparked the conversations that a lot of people who never considered themselves political, never considered themselves activists, suddenly were living with the reality that 6 out of 10 of their neighbors had gone to the polls and taken their rights away. And suddenly we were talking to cousins and friends and co-workers and people in our church or synagogue about what that felt like. And those conversations began to change hearts and minds. That's part of the reason that we've gone to court with 6 couples as plaintiffs with the National Center for Lesbian Rights. One, because we believe the tide has turned dramatically enough, both in terms of public opinion and also in terms of the court cases that are unfolding all across the country. And 2, we did it because we want a platform to tell these stories, to hold up our families, to say, you're not talking about an abstract concept here. You're talking about these 2 people. You're talking about me and my wife and my child. And you're going to have to be accountable for what you allow to be done in our name. And those stories are really quite powerful. And I want to welcome, we have one of the plaintiff couples here tonight, and I want to welcome them up to tell a little bit of their story. Please join me in welcoming Jeff and Todd Delmays.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. First of all, Jeff and I have been together for over 11 years, and we were just telling a couple people that we celebrate our anniversary as that anniversary of our first date, and we don't have that marriage anniversary yet. And we've built over the last 11 years, we've built a life together. We have a son who is going to be 4 in just a couple of weeks, and you know, it was so important to us as we saw things happening around the country. We really wanted to be a part of it. And when this opportunity to be part of this lawsuit and to stand up came to us, you know, we really, it only took a moment to really think, do we want to be that out there? Do we want people to really know about our lives and know about who we are? And it took us only a moment to say, yeah, we really do, because it is stories like ours and the stories that we are hearing from couples in this room and couples that we meet everywhere. It is those kinds of stories that are changing hearts and minds. And it has been such an honor for us just in the last several weeks to be part of this. And we really feel the weight, the responsibility that we are speaking for people who cannot speak for themselves. But we really know that we're building a better world. We know that our son will grow up in a world that when he's ready to marry, whether it's a man or a woman, whoever he wants to marry, he'll be able to do that. And we knew when we became part of the lawsuit that we were really in good hands with Equality Florida. And that was another reason why we just didn't hesitate. But of course, as we've been going to events and meeting other people and meeting the community that's really behind Equality Florida, we really feel like everybody in this room and everybody has our back. And we really feel lifted up and held up by that. And so, again, we appreciate everything that you do to support what's happening. And we know that the day will come very soon when marriage equality will come to this state. It will happen here, and we will all celebrate that day. So thank you.
Thanks so much for being here. So let me just tell you quickly, because we've got these great little flyers that give you all the highlights, tell you all the things we're working on, but I do want to hit just a couple of highlights. You know, we are winning at an accelerated speed right now. Last year we passed over 20 local policies all across Florida, including in parts of the state that just a little while ago were considered too difficult to even begin. Right now, because of our efforts last year, 1.6 million more Floridians have access to those basic protections that domestic partnership provides. And in Tallahassee, when we work towards the passage of a statewide non-discrimination law, we're not up there by ourselves. We have bipartisan support. Republicans are standing up with Democrats to push this forward. And in fact, your senator from this district is going to be an important part of that equation. He's on the committee for that's the very first stop, Garrett Richter. And so if you have, if you know him, now is the time to reach out to him and let him know how important this moment is. And you know, there's something instructive in what happened in Arizona, because what we know is the far right sees and I want to be careful here, but I want to call them is the the anti-gay culture warriors see that their day is ending. But they're not going to go out without a fight. All right, so we've seen them try and intervene in our lawsuit, and we see that their new strategy is to push laws that are so broad in exempting people from anti-discrimination laws as to allow pretty much anybody to say, we don't serve your kind because of my deeply held religious beliefs, whatever they might be. And so Arizona was instructed because it was the very first one that made the headlines. One of the things that we figured out in Florida was that we needed our business leadership to speak up on these issues in Tallahassee. And I will tell you that it has been a game changer. Two things. One, to have out gay legislators in Tallahassee, it is night and day. Because again, it's that accountability. You can't just reduce people to caricatures, you have to look them in the eye, recognize their humanity, and be accountable for what you inflict. So having out gay legislators, I cannot tell you how different the atmosphere is. But also, when we go to Tallahassee and we're talking about a non-discrimination law, we've got Walt Disney, we've got Darden, we've got Wells Fargo, CSX, we've got some of the large tech data, Fortune 100 companies standing with us saying this is the right thing to do, and without it, Florida will lose a competitive edge in bringing top talent. And so we are moving forward on so many levels. Florida leads the South, not only in the support for marriage equality, but support across the board. And here's the danger. Because those headlines are coming at us so rapidly, because we can joke our pigs flying, it is easy for people to think that inevitability will take us the rest of the way. That now the course is just set, there's a younger generation coming up that will just push us along. And what I want to remind everybody of is this. We didn't get here because of inevitability. We got here because the PFLAG folks in this room stood up for their kids when it was dangerous to. People like Tom Croce stood up in the classroom even if his knees were shaking. You know, those moments where you, in the circle that only you could influence, did something to make it better. That's why we're here. And we know that a backlash is coming because it's already arrived, but it is the last gasp of a dwindling voice. And we cannot be bystanders, and we cannot believe this will simply happen on its own. This is the moment to lean in. And I think we all feel it, and that's why we see more and more people stepping forward. So I want to thank you all for being here tonight. I want to thank all of you for everything that you've done leading up to this moment. And I want to thank you in advance for the things that you are going to do to take us across the finish line. Because as a friend of mine said last year when we were tallying all of our victories, sent me a note that said, "Congratulations, the finish line is in sight, but it's all uphill from here." So that is both the good news and the challenge ahead. And the way we have gotten there is because people have donated their time and they have donated their money. And sometimes they have donated heroically at just the moment we need the most. So my challenge to you is think about the people in your circle that only you can reach and bring them to this work. Tell your story like the Delmays. You don't have to be a plaintiff in a lawsuit to tell your story. We have a campaign called Get Engaged. Not only can you tell your story in your circle, but you can upload your story to our website. It is the most tried and true way that we change hearts, minds, and votes. And finally, give. Give at a level that is meaningful to you. You'll see people in this room who have, like Tom's here, has a Equality Florida pin. Those are our Florida council members. Those are people who give $1,200 or more each year to Equality Florida's work. Wear one of those proudly. But give it a level that is meaningful to you, because right now, that victory is that close. But it's not going to be easy, but we're going to get there together. Thank you all so very much.